Introducing once again Joleen with Agni Yoga and Psychic Energy, the life-giving energy.
The life-giving energy. So that was the title or the theme of the conference this weekend. Agni Yoga and Psychic Energy, the life-giving energy. So this is the last presentation for the weekend. So much has been talked about, and I'm thinking, what new do I have to offer? And really not that much. So repetition is good. And but what a beautiful combination of ideas when I think of Agni Yoga is very much in the field of science, philosophy, psychology, certainly educational, and every presenter brought in a different aspect of Agni Yoga and psychic energy. I just thought it was so beautiful, including Wendy's presentation on art and the art of Nicholas Rourke and how that is part of the synthesis of the whole of the teaching. It's just really beautiful. What is also interesting is the teaching explains that the study of psychic energy, provides an environment for us to assimilate the energy. So imagine if we take and believe in this concept, and I surely do, is that if we consider all the study, research, time, and energy that has gone into listening and preparing and sharing the teaching on psychic energy, how we have been assimilating and accumulating psychic energy. So today's talk is very practical, which is a word I really don't like. But when it just seemed like a really boring word, practical. For an Aquarius rising person, we don't like practical. And then I realized that practical meant to put something into practice, then it made more sense to me. So what I'll be sharing with in this next 45 minutes is the practical side of the teaching and how we can accumulate and experience and realize and even manifest in our words and thoughts and emotions, our creativity, creative ideas. We're going to manifest psychic energy. The first time I read about psychic energy, it was a book written by Torkim Saradarian. And I read the book from beginning to end. And when I reached the end of that book, I thought, I so want psychic energy. How do I get psychic energy? So that was many, many years ago. And it came as such a surprise to me. And after psychic energy has been defined, now I recognize and realize I was experiencing psychic energy from the time I was a little girl, but I didn't have the term psychic energy. It was just energy, different kinds of energy. And so now, if you can imagine, all these many years later, recognizing that psychic energy is a gift to all of us, and it comes to us from the cosmic magnet, that we've learned that the source of psychic energy is the cosmic magnet, and how our physical sun accumulates this psychic energy and distributes it to our whole solar system, and from the planets and the greater zodiac and these 49 levels of, of consciousness, let's call it the 49 levels of beingness. All of this psychic energy is distributed throughout the universe, comes to us as an individual, as a group, as a humanity, and is there for us to use, but we have to accumulate it. So, in the study and research of primary energies, our studies and experiences gradually enlighten our minds. Psychic energy is the process, the power that drives us forward and allows this opportunity for enlightenment, enlightening our minds, purifying our hearts, and even vitalizing our bodies. Study, research, and experience bring to the surface of our mind the principles and standards of Agni Yoga that are pro-survival and the foundation for all true success, health, and prosperity. So if we want to be healthy, if we want to be successful, if we want to be prosperous, we want to and need to learn how to accumulate psychic energy. And I was thinking, my goodness, the time frame that we're in right now, with today being the day of the master, tomorrow being the first of the 3 major solar festivals, tomorrow the festival of Aries, and then we have Easter following next Sunday. We're right in that whirlwind of powerful, powerful psychic energy. So we have to find a way to arrange our days, today, tomorrow, throughout the week, into Easter, how we can accumulate this energy, this psychic energy, this primary energy that is so available to us now. Those who dedicate themselves to research about psychic energy are going to observe that psychic energy is transformational, and it brings significant changes that take place, and it not only broadens our consciousness, it helps us to understand the path that we are on and how different this kind of a path is from the path that most of humanity travels. So psychic energy is not only enlightening, it's revealing. And our research is going to open up a portal to help us recognize that psychic energy is transformational. And this transformational process is a literal process. It's not psychic, it's not theoretical, it's not hypothetical, it's not philosophical. It's just, I can't think of all the philosophy behind it all is this. I'm trying to get, I have so many thoughts coming in right now. I'm trying to sort them out. This is the point, is that you begin to change. And that's why the teaching brings not only transmutation, but transformation. Our whole mechanical, used to be mechanical nature, physical, emotional, mental, is now changing into what it was originally designed to be, what we as human beings were originally designed to be. And so transformation is a process of change, of literal change. So I was trying to say, it's not something that we read about, it's something that you're going to experience. Now, there's a book called The Threshold of the New World by Helene Rourke. She talks about her transformational process. Her process was much more extreme than ours because she was a Tara. But she led the way to help teach us that if we want to undergo the fire of transformation, there are certain disciplines and experiences and commitment and responsibilities that we undertake in order to change ourselves. And this changing process is a process that will sustain us through the rest of this life and continue in the other worlds. And when we come back into our next incarnation, what we changed and transformed here will continue with the next life, bringing greater light, greater illumination, bringing the next wave of the teaching in with us. So let us begin. Master M says, the magnet of thought brings in most precious particles of psychic energy. One must grow to love it. One must recognize its constant presence. Now, I was thinking about in the letter what I read earlier today, where Joleen DuBois says, when you come together, then as in a great service, you will carry within yourself a beautiful prayer to the one whose essence of your heart aspires. She also said, you have forever appreciated that the power of thought, this is the important point, the power of thought is that invisible power that connects you with the Most High. So now Master M is saying the magnet of thought brings in the most precious particles of psychic energy. The most precious particles are the particles of light and love and beauty and joy and freedom that is flowing to us from the Master, the ray of the Master. But it's different. It's a different kind of energy. It's not what we experience day to day, getting up in the morning, going to work, eating breakfast, eating lunch. It's a whole different experience. And this is why Master M is saying we must grow to love it. Because in it, in this magnet of thought, in the particles of psychic energy, is found spiritual tension. Spiritual tension. So he goes on to say, such thinking is by no means easy. To realize we are now connecting with the power of thought coming to us through the ethers of hierarchy, of the higher ashram, of the masters. MM says a great deal of patience must be found in order to protect it under the attack of all the unbridled currents of space. So these unbridled currents we're sensitive to when we are not aware of our thinking. When we're not aware of our thinking is when we come under the attack of our own negativity, our sense of not being good enough, our sense of not understanding what the purpose of our life is, all the weaknesses that we carry with us from one life to another, we bring into this incarnation. And when we're tired, we open ourselves up to these currents, these unbridled currents of space, and they serve as triggers. These triggers then go contradistinction to the beauty, the love, the power of the thoughts coming to us, these particles of psychic energy coming to us from the Master, coming to us from the community of masters. And so this is why he is saying that we must be patient with ourselves. And then we must be patient with our friends and family, because we are all striving to undergo this process of transmutation, transformation, so that we can be a beacon of light. Thoughts about psychic energy become magnetic toward the inflow of the currents of psychic energy. The teaching says our thoughts must be pure and dedicated to the service of uplifting, enlightening, healing, protecting, and transforming people. It says, unless such a foundation is there, one cannot accumulate this fiery primary energy. So this is telling us that we must find a way to create a foundation in our life where we can accumulate psychic energy. The purity of our mind and thinking connects us to higher spheres. So we're assuming that during these 2.5 days of the conference, that the purity of our thinking, the purity of our mind has connected us to higher spheres. For example, purity of motive evokes will energy from higher centers. Will energy is the energy of the core of each of us. It is also the core of our solar system. So even though it's invisible, these lines of, or let's call it rays or waves of energy that occurs as a result of our connection to higher spheres evokes will, or the power of will, coming from the sun, the core of the sun, activating the core of our own beingness. And now will is activating psychic energy. Isn't that interesting? And we need the power of will to undergo transmutation and transformation. Sacrificial service. Sacrificial service creates trust in higher entities, those higher entities who draw closer to us as individuals and groups and leaders. And when they draw closer to our purity of thought, they begin to cooperate with our efforts of building this foundation, of sharing the light and the love and the beauty of the teaching to initiate transmutation and transformation within humanity. This is the process of sacrificial service. All practitioners of Agni Yoga, as practitioners of Agni Yoga, our lives must be based on striving toward beauty, striving to greater and greater service, and great striving together. As we strive on the path of Agni Yoga, the yoga of life, we recognize that our life is a garden. We discover that we must strive to be beautiful gardeners, so that everything in our garden is beautiful and useful to others. This brings spiritual tension into our life to create a beautiful garden. A beautiful garden doesn't just happen. We have to work it and till it and put the right seeds in our garden and then we have to protect it and care for it. So this is why Master M talks about the flowers in his garden. If we are a flower in the garden of Master Moria, we want to be the most beautiful flower that we can possibly be, so that we can reflect the sun, the cosmic magnet, the power that psychic energy brings to us as being flowers in the garden of the Master. The higher the frequency of psychic energy flowing through us, the greater the quality of our garden. And this is why we find so many disciplines that we voluntarily decide to follow in the teaching. The Agni Yoga practitioner must develop receptivity and sensitivity to acquire psychic energy. Receptivity and sensitivity must continuously be developed to such a degree that no opportunity is lost in sensing and receiving this primary energy. Receptivity and sensitivity can be developed with constant alertness, observation, watchfulness, and attention. Psychic energy can be absorbed by the practitioner only when they feel it and recognize it and accept it. The current of psychic energy does not force itself, but waits for proper reception. So I was thinking how, repeating this, that the current of psychic energy waits for proper reception. What does proper reception mean? It means for us to be ready to receive psychic energy. So how do we prepare ourselves to be receptive if not through working on ourselves? Practicing. It's like when, I was a violinist, a musician for many, many years in my life. And when I was younger, and I guess it started in grade school, through high school, through college, and after I graduated into becoming a professional musician, I had to practice every single day for hours and hours in order to perfect the talent that I had. And even though I was never a Jascha Heifetz or a Nathan Bilstein or some of those violinists that nobody knows about anymore, they were, truly exceptional violinists and performers and loving human beings. They were not just a genius in their field, but they were a genius with humanity because they were so loving. But in order to take your talent, you have to refine that talent. You have to extract all the genius within that talent that you have the ability to do. And that requires discipline. It requires practice. It requires constant discipline, constant practice. Now we have meditation. I was thinking about Jeff and his talk yesterday, and he said meditation didn't work for him. And I thought, well, he needed to talk to us because there are so many different types of meditation. And this is why Agni Yoga, I think, does not emphasize meditation, but emphasize the power of thought. And so our teaching has been that meditation is thinking. Meditation is the power of thought. And it's in the power of thought that we accumulate the particles of psychic energy that come to us in such a way that we begin to accumulate it. Even from a young age, we begin to accumulate psychic energy. So the idea is that the concept of the psychic energy waits for proper reception. We're responsible to make ourselves receptive. It doesn't just magically happen. So psychic energy has 7 grades of energy. All is psychic energy, but as we receive higher grades of energy, we come in contact with a more powerful energy. So it's like when I was a kid, I had a violin that must have been horrible for my parents to listen to. It was not a quality violin. You know, it was just a lower grade of wood that was made into the shape of a violin. But as I practiced and practiced and practiced and had a good half a dozen teachers making sure I practiced, then I got a better violin and then a better violin. And with the better and better violin, the energy that came from the genius of the makers of those violins made me sound as if I were a better violinist. And it's like when we listen to music today, we have, you know, I was thinking of that movie that I watched called Maestro. And they had, it was absolutely the most riveting experience that I had to see. I don't remember the name of the actor anymore. Do you remember who is the maestro? It took Bernstein's.
Bradley Cooper.
Yeah, Cooper. He was so into it, and he talked about he felt like he was overshadowed. And I said, yeah, Bernstein, and I thought I would believe it. You know, the best of the best. So people can play music that's really like that initial violin that's made of, you know, pine trees. or a composer that's made of the genius and talent of Stradivarius. And we sound so much better. So in other words, we want to be like this perfect Stradivarius violin, a perfect instrument to where our physical, emotional, mental bodies are aligned and integrated with the higher centers, so we can be receptive to these currents of psychic energy. And then we take these currents of psychic energy and present them, like with our conference this weekend. And we're taking the teaching as a musical instrument, as a treasure, and sharing them with one another that will go out into space. And it's just so beautiful. So what does psychic energy, the life-giving energy, do? It illuminates us. The teaching illuminates us. It reveals us to ourselves. And we see precisely whether we're that pine tree violin or a Stradivarius. As energy increases, we see our physical, emotional, and mental natures, and we begin to take steps to transform them. Now, when psychic energy is absent, we play hide and seek with ourselves. And when it flows in us, we face ourselves and try to find ways and means to change ourselves. Says, once people realize psychic energy, the new era will affirm itself. I think it is realistic to say that the new era for humanity will start the day the coming new children and youth will bring us the fire of wholeness with the chalice of their hearts. Once we fuse our spirit with the wisdom and vision of wholeness, our thoughts, logic, feeling, actions, and words will change and repolarize toward building a new culture of unity and wholeness. And this is what we are striving to do now. It is in the realization of psychic energy, the life-giving energy, that we can become an instrument of synthesis. For example, we can expand our consciousness by adopting the viewpoint of the whole picture and seeing things in the light of synthesis. This idea is really understood in contemplating the paintings of Nicholas Rourke. If we take an object and view it, so if we take a painting or any kind of an object and only see it from the present perspective, the present value, we are not seeing the future in it. We're not seeing the gift of thought, the power of thought that Nicholas Rourke, with his connection to the higher spheres, the greater ones, as he permeated his paintings with the power of thought of the future. If all we see is just the present in that painting, then we're not understanding that that painting, for example, is an instrument of synthesis. So we want to become instruments of synthesis and see the past and the present and the future in all that we do and say and act and feel. If we witness an event separate from all others, then we're going to be limited in our understanding of the significance of what we are looking at. We experience that the first conscious contact with psychic energy is going to be painful because we see exactly what we are. Some people cannot endure the pain, they won't accept it, and they'll return to their former ways of life. Some people can stand the pain and try then to adjust their lives to the demands of psychic energy. Going against psychic energy leads a person to degeneration. The next conscious contact with psychic energy is illuminating us in such a way that we are able to see the plan and purpose of our life. Psychic energy heals. We heard this with Val's talk yesterday. Psychic energy heals us. All miraculous healings are done by psychic energy. It affects the etheric centers and the corresponding glands and brings harmony and vitality into the human body. Psychic energy heals our emotional sickness. People have more emotional sicknesses than physical ones. It heals the mental body of many disorders and wounds which appear later in the physical body in disturbing and painful forms. Psychic energy heals and integrates the human aura and also expels certain entities from it or out of it. People think that obsession and possession are delusionary, but most of their physical, emotional, and mental diseases are the effects of obsession and possession. Psychic energy unites people. It creates a cohesiveness in families, in groups, in nations. Disunity, this is so interesting to think about. Disunity is a sign that psychic energy is absent. So, this is a very powerful statement, particularly when we take our powers of observation and watchfulness and begin to see how certain systems where they were successful now are in the process of degeneration. When in this country, some of you, I'm assuming not everybody watches CNN, but in this country we see disunity taking place and ask ourselves, why is this happening? What's happening to this party? What's happening to that party? Why the disunity and separativeness taking place within a country? Well, the teachings say it's the lack of psychic energy. The lack of psychic energy means that humanity in general and the citizens of this country in total, let's say, are not ready. They're not receiving. They're not receptive because the psychic energy is there and waiting for us to be receptive. So we're not responding to the impulse of higher thought, higher idea, particularly the leadership in the country. And I know that's a very strong statement, but it's realistic. So disunity, whether it's in our family, in our country, in humanity as a whole, disunity is a sign that psychic energy is absent. This is also true in our physical, emotional, and mental realms. Without integration in our physical, emotional, and mental realms, psychic energy is absent. Immediately, on the other hand, immediately when the psychic energy flows within us, we will observe the integration, the alignment, harmony, and health within our system. Psychic energy unites people and brings unity within individuals. We see this happening in the Agni Yoga community. Look at the unity that's taken place in the last 10 years, 10 or 15 years that was not there before. Psychic energy unites people and brings unity within individuals. This helps for the evolution and transformation of humanity. This energy cannot operate through mechanisms that have divisions in them. So all parts must work together in a cooperative manner. If psychic energy is invoked, it creates unity. If divisions still exist, then it destroys the mechanism. Many groups and communities who raise their aspiration and invoke psychic energy suddenly disintegrate and disappear. Why is this? Before psychic energy is invoked, you must be receptive and you must have pure motive for unification. Then you must follow the directions of the energy and the whispers of your heart. Psychic energy, the primary energy, uplifts us. People who are depressed, who are broken or beaten, they will receive vitality and stand on their feet when psychic energy comes to them. Those whose hearts were dead receive a flame, and their aspiration rises up to space. Those whose minds were stupefied suddenly feel a regeneration and begin searching and learning and expanding. This primary life-giving energy also passes a strong voltage of energy to the consciousness and makes it expand. Many people who were in the depths of grief rose to the stars when psychic energy reached them. So psychic energy not only uplifts us, but also floods our being with the blessings of hope. Esoterically, hope is a spiritual conviction that nothing can destroy the spirit, and that the spirit will always be victorious and pave its way toward greater achievements and success. As psychic energy flows through us, it uplifts our mind and aspirations toward eternal values and takes our mind above the disturbing waves of human problems and ugliness. I'm so out of time. Okay, I'm so sorry. Well, let's see. I'll just continue as far as I can, and then you can cut me off, okay? Psychic energy brings synthesis into our whole being. We think, we feel, we plan, we act not partially, but as a whole. We develop holistic thinking, holistic feeling, and holistic acting. Separative interests are left behind, and we exercise only holistic ways to unite and synthesize all that is below and all that is above. So one of the higher senses is called the sense of synthesis. This sense develops life after life. The Great One entrusts responsible duties only to those who have a sense of synthesis. Psychic energy gives us protection. It builds a shield around us. This shield literally protects our mental body from dark, criminal thoughts and thought forms and evil currents that are directed to our heart. We see our great ones under attack. We read the biographies of great ones and how under attack they are from the moment they're born, and some even when they're still in the womb of their mother are under attack. But psychic energy gives them protection. With such a shield, poisonous arrows directed to their body cannot hurt them because psychic energy bounces them back. The life-giving energy continually protects us if we are in tune with it. This is why it's like being in tune with the teaching, being in tune with the presenters this weekend. Protects us. This is why we are told that gratitude must always radiate from our hearts. Psychic energy can also be used for destructive purposes. It can destroy the formations of evil thoughts and emotions. It can destroy the subtle bodies of dark forces that try to attack and obsess a person. It may also destroy the accumulation of harmful germs. So here's an interesting point about this life-giving energy. There are psychic traps or walls built around us that prevent the expansion of our consciousness and our mental and physical progress. But these obstacles can also be destroyed when psychic energy is used properly. It is vital to realize that psychic energy is also destructive within the human being when and if it is not used properly, or if hindrances are produced against its currents. So in the first case, psychic energy burns the network of the nadis, which is the etheric counterpart of our nerves, if it does not continuously flow. In the second case, if a person invokes and accumulates energy, but in the meantime nourishes ugly thoughts, feelings, and actions, then psychic energy reverses itself and burns our mechanism, producing various diseases in the person or even in the country. Psychic energy is also destructive when we work against those who are heavily charged with psychic energy. Those who have a full challenge of psychic energy must carry it very cautiously, because if they take a wrong direction and stumble, the fire may burn their mechanism. Some leaders have psychic energy, and they use it to move multitudes toward great expansions of consciousness. Psychic energy also magnetizes groups and makes them distributors of great ideas, visions, and culture. So psychic energy attracts not only lofty ideas and impressions from space, but also the leaders' vehicles of manifestation and the ways and means to accomplish their vision and their aspiration. Psychic energy makes people highly creative. A person is in tune with the higher station when psychic energy operates in them. Psychic energy puts the creative centers in the person in operation. This is so cool. Even if a person is not a professional artist, they begin to sing and write and compose and dance and discover new ways to bring out the beauty and wisdom that's found in their core. This is why when White Mountain used to have a choir, I mean, there are a few that were, well trained in music, but the majority were not, and yet they always came together and sounded so beautiful. And we play this music every Sunday because it's their music. And it's because of psychic energy flowing through that whole group and made them sound like they were the best of the best vocalists. Psychic energy builds bridges and communication lines between the worlds. Here's a nice point. Psychic energy strengthens the bond between the disciple and the teacher and makes the disciple's aura sensitive to the teacher's expectations and guidance. This relationship develops to such a degree that the person lives in the light of the consciousness of their teacher while retaining, this is important, while retaining intact their free will and the power of discrimination. A person who is in contact with the higher worlds is like a mountain whose summit is lost in the mystery of the sun's rays and the clouds, but whose feet are grounded on earth, spreading there the life-giving waters of the higher worlds. When you are talking about something serious, or giving a lecture, or counseling, psychic energy reminds you of the various points, important points that are hidden in your memory. Most inspiration is transmitted through psychic energy. A speaker can flood their audience with beautiful ideas and stories, which come to their mind successfully as they continue their speech. We need a good memory for creative work, leadership, and any serious service in general. A good memory is not limited to the recollections that you may have from this life, but also applies to recollections from previous lives and from the subtle worlds where you carried on their life every time you passed away. Psychic energy connects all those memories and makes you remember them anytime you need them for constructive work. Often these memories do not come to you as a recollection, but as if you had them on your shelf, all ready to use. So memories are different from recollections. Memories are the registrations of experiences. Memories are the registration of experience. Recollections are the act of remembering our memory. And I think they're going to kill me if I don't. So let me close with this. Psychic energy is a power in our heart that understands and assimilates. When we have psychic power, we understand the supramundane world and the workings of psychic energy. For example, psychic energy assimilates the teaching that is part of the supramundane world, yet not available. It is not yet written or spoken. It is in space. So MM gives us a vision. He says that as on his day, he is giving us this vision. As we are living here and developing our consciousness and evolving from the mineral kingdom to the human kingdom and higher kingdoms. The same evolution in different spirals and different substances is going on in all worlds that the Creator made. Knowing this expands our consciousness.